Welcome back to the Culture of Currency, where today we're going to go over a little bit of why and how I buy silver. I noticed a little bit of popularity in my last video that talked about the differences if you were over the last 4 years to buy, or not buy, to put $100 in a bank savings account versus things like silver, both generic and premium. That being said, I did want to engage with you on why and kind of how I buy silver. And I have a little piece of paper here so I can draw it out for you because some of us are visual people like myself. So basically, I started buying silver a couple of years ago, and I only do $100 a month because I wanted this to be a hobby. And I wanted this to be something that, as I make videos on, that is replicatable by just about everybody who can, given their condition. Obviously, some people live in places in the world where you can't find stuff like this, and how unfortunate, but also how grateful I am that I live in a place where I can. But basically, that's what I do. I want to spread hope with my channel, so $100 will do ya. And everything that I built was on $100 at a time. So we're going to use very general numbers so that it makes the most sense. So I followed Dave Ramsey's path on finance, and I know Dave Ramsey hates silver and gold and all the metals, and I get it. I understand why he does, and I found a way to follow Dave Ramsey and do a little bit of this, and to, paraphrase what he says is, basically, there was many callers who have said, when can I have fun with the money that I've saved, the money that I've built? And he said, well, basically, when you can burn a chunk of it in the backyard and not feel it, it means nothing. So, for example, if you had $4 million as a net worth, $4 million is a lot. But if you wanted to buy a $150,000 car, which is crazy, but, if you wanted to do that with a $4 million net worth, and you go get one and you wreck it that day and it's totaled, it really doesn't change much financially for you. So that being said, at that point, he says it would be okay. And so for me, understanding that I wanted to, collect silver and that type of thing, to share stories with my children, grandchildren one day, all those types of things, I said, well, what's a number that makes sense for me, and that my wife is like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. And I just said, well, let's do $100 and just see what happens. Obviously, that can be more or less for many people, but the idea is that monthly, if you just were to throw that money away and not feel it, maybe that's a good amount to spend on something like this. Dave often says 10% of what you're, bringing in, or your net worth, can be used for hobbies or fun things once you're on his 7th baby step, which is to be completely debt free and to live and give like no one else. So we'll go over all, those things. I've gone over those things in videos in the past, but let's just say, as a household, we bring in $10,000, right? So very, very simple. Let's just say we bring in $10,000. It's a round number as a household. Okay, and we're going to do this in buckets just because it makes sense. So this is kind of the flow. The $10,000 goes into bucket number 1. And because I'm debt-free, we're going to call this bucket, there's $3K in it, we're going to call it bills. Simple. So $3K goes into the bucket for bills, which means that's going to pay for all of my expenditures. And I'm just using, once again, very simple numbers, which means we have $7K of overflow from bucket 1, which goes to the next bucket. Here's the next bucket right here. And this bucket is going to be 3 to 6 months of income. And this is kind of an incidental thing. If the air conditioner goes out in your house, you have the money sitting here in a savings account, and you can snap your fingers, go get the air conditioner fixed, or buy a new one and not really feel it. It's all sitting there. But statistically speaking, It takes 3 to 6 months to find a new job if you lose one on average. And so in the fact that you lose your job, you can strip your bills down to bare bones, and you have 3 to 6 months here of basically income to float you until you get that next job, that next phase of your life. On top of that, we overflow. So we've created, once we get to that 3 to 6 months of our income, which in this case, if we're making $10,000, means $30,000 to $60,000, which might take a couple months. It overflows once that's full to our next bucket. And our next bucket is going to be retirement. Retirement is going to be 15%, roughly. So in this case, it's $1,500 on retirement. I actually go quite a bit more than that, but these are just loose numbers. And obviously that overflows quite a bit, and then we can add more buckets. So for me, our next bucket, put kids there. This is for the the college fund, the education funds of the kids. So that if they decide to go to college one day, they can take care of that. We also have regular savings accounts for the kids, but basically we have a chunk that goes there. Then we have another bucket that overflows. And this is where, now that all of these are full, when you get paid every month, the $10,000, a lot of the money comes here, and that is going to be a mutual fund or many mutual funds, basically because when you park your money in a savings account, like we just learned in my last video, it doesn't grow a whole lot. It actually can lose value over time based on inflation, things like that. But compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, according to Einstein. And with time, it grows like crazy, which is why you want to get out of debt, by the way, because compound interest works against you too. So if you have a bunch of outstanding loans, credit card debt, all that kind of stuff, the compound interest is working against you. If you don't have that and you have things like mutual funds, it works for you, which is great because that really does help you build your wealth over time. And then when all this is happening, I draw my $100 a month on silver, which obviously I could, in theory, spend and follow Dave's path, spend, $1,000 a month on silver. It, would be nice to do that, but it defeats the purpose of showing all of you that you can do it too. I don't want to amass anything that isn't replicatable by my viewers. I just don't need to. And silver for me, though it is fun, it is not something that I'm expecting an investment on. It's a great way to hold money, hold value, and that's what I kind of use it for. But I'm not going to put my money on the potential growth of silver. It's kind of like canned beans, right? I can stock a pantry with canned beans, knowing in 25 years they're still canned beans, and if something crazy happens, I can pop them open and eat them. Whereas silver, I'm not looking at it, to grow my wealth. I'm looking at it more to stabilize it a little bit over time. And so that's kind of what I'm doing. But that gives you an idea. I thought this was a way that could let you know what I do, why I do, and then you can modify this pattern based on what you're doing. But I would say get debt free first. Don't let compound interest work against you. Get debt free and then slowly build up what it takes to get to the point where you can buy silver and not feel it, or you can, go get a hobby and not feel it, that type of thing. Silver is my hobby. Most hobbies cost you a lot of money. When I purchase in silver, it usually just stays in the money that I've put into it. And if it grows, great, whatever. And if it doesn't, great, whatever, doesn't matter. So that's what I'm doing. I hope this was valuable to you. And I hope, as always, you remember to stay classy and current with the culture of currency.